Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and today we are reviewing Sinners. Now, I'm very late to the party. I originally actually wasn't going to watch Sinners because the trailer didn't really grip me, but then I heard a lot of good things about it, and I thought, you know what, I'll go see it. So I am late to the party, but you can expect that a lot on this channel. We usually come late to the party to things. So I thought, hey, watched it, might as well put my review out there. But yeah, so Sinners is essentially a vampire movie that is in the 1930s, I think. Yeah, I think it's in the 1930s. It's essentially about these two twins that are going to start a juke joint with their cousin, and you kind of set the whole thing up, and essentially, which is a major part of the movie, is the cousin playing the music is kind of what essentially, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but by now you should have watched the movie. Essentially, him playing music is like a key part of the movie, because it's just, what they do is they play with it in terms of it draws all elements of like the past and the future of music, but it also like because vampires are kind of dead, it speaks to like the dead also, and it can bring them to kind of hear the music performance. So it kind of draws vampires to it, and just like what they kind of play it off as like music connects to the past and the present and those who have before them, and to the future. So essentially why it draws vampires in is because they think, okay, if we can get him, we have that connection to the past. So that's why it draws vampires to the music. And essentially, like what this cousin Sammy, he's people like him is like a feeding frenzy for vampires that draws them to that, because that connection that they make with music is what draws them in, and what they want to have for themselves. But essentially, that is kind of what the plot of the movie is. It's essentially they open the juke joint. He obviously has a performance of his life at the juke joint, which essentially draws the vampires in, and then that's kind of like how the whole thing starts playing off. I do want to talk about the build-up. They do it very well. A lot of movies nowadays, what they do is you don't get a connection with the characters. Like, you don't really get to know the characters that much. They spend very little time on the characters. So when characters die off or something, you don't really care because you didn't really have any investment with them. They spend a good chunk with the movie letting you know about characters, giving you some backstory on the characters, like the Stack Smoke twins, which is played by Michael B. Jordan. He plays two roles. Bro got double the pay. And then obviously with Sammy, and then there's some side characters too. Even when they are getting people that they need that they want to work at the juke joint, you get a little bit of a connection with them. You find a little bit out about them. So it builds the characters a little bit in you, so you can have that connection with the characters, so you get to like them. So when the intense stuff happens, you do kind of care a little bit about what happens to the characters, which I think is very good. They do spend a good chunk of time on the first part of the movie on that. You also get to know about the Stack twins. Sorry, not calling them the Stack twins, the Stack Smoke twins. That's what they call themselves. Like why they left and why they come back. I won't get into that. You guys can go watch why that. It's not a major spoiler though, but the music in the movie is extremely good. Like, they use the music really well. Obviously, music is a big theme of the movie. They use the music very well in certain times, and it's played very well. Obviously, blues is like a heavy influence. But there's like a scene where the main vampire is outside and he starts singing like an Irish song, and they start dancing, and I thought that was also kind of like he starts doing like an Irish dance. That also kind of just fit in quite well. Also, they do a very good job with when they do put the music in, that it does just kind of flow very nicely with the movie. Characters, like I said, they do very well with the characters. You get invested with them very early on, so you do have that bond with them. Like I spoke about the music. Essentially, what I also really like about them is the humor. There is humor in this. So you get like the scene where I think it's Stack. These two guys try to rob the truck, and Stack shoots them, and he kind of goes on about his business, like buying some supplies for the juke joint, and so, you can kind of hear in the background these two guys like, "No man, I got shot." Ah. It's like this whole scene, and in the background you can just hear these guys like complaining because they got shot, or like moaning because it hurts and shit like that. They have these small little comedy moments that I think is just a very good quality of life for the movie. It makes it a fun watch for the movie. Yeah, I forgot what I want to say. I think I was gonna. Yeah, the jokes are very good. They extend them on quite a lot. I think I remember now. The vampires. Essentially, what they do with the vampires is very good. So they have that old classic, like a vampire thing where a vampire can't go into your house or your property if you don't invite them in. They do very very good with that. They play on that. It's really fun. I find that they use that, but it works in a way. They do very well with like playing with that to get the movie to work. There is one scene where it's a little bit of a spoiler, but like I said, the movie's been out for a while, so if you haven't seen it now, you're probably not even gonna watch this review. But there's a scene where I think one of the ladies she gives them permission to come in out of like anger for them threatening to go kill her daughter. Whoosh, a sneeze coming up there. Anyway, so she gets out of anger. She like shouts like, "Come in, come and get it, you son of a bitch." I can't remember the words she says, but essentially that kind of like lets the guy in, lets the vampires in. Now in that scene, this is my only gripe really about the movie, is there's a shitload of vampires at this point, and there's only about 6 characters in the barn. They get rushed with them. Now they do have like wooden stakes and guns, and they're shooting. In the scene, and I spoke to my friends about that when I was watching it with them, in the scene it makes it seem like there's a lot more survivors than what there is. Like when the vampires are jumping, they're like ripping people apart that aren't really there. Like there is only 6 of them, so it makes you question who are they eating. The only thing I could think of was essentially they were maybe hitting the vampires off like into each other, and it was just like a vampire frenzy. So it's like if I have a vampire in front of me, you hit him into me, and I could just go crazy and I just start ripping him apart. That's the only thing I could play it off, but that also just doesn't really make sense because they know which 6 is alive. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, if you have seen the movie and what you thought of that. That to me was a little bit weird, a weird scene. It was a very confusing scene. That's like the one scene that was a little bit confusing. One of my friends speculated that he thinks they maybe shot that scene before coming up with the final like 6, and maybe in the edit they couldn't get it to work, and they didn't want to reshoot for whatever reason, which could be a theory, a gamble theory. I didn't look up on it, but that's like my only gripe. The movie is very good. Like I said, I'm ball play it. If I had to give it a score out of 10, I was kind of going through between a 7 and an 8. I think a fair would be maybe a 7.5. I would give it. It's a really good watch. A lot of people are saying it's the best vampire movie ever. Not sure about that. I'm not like the biggest vampire fan, I do like vampires, but I just don't like a lot of vampire movies. A lot of them just play vampires off quite badly, or more like kind of like the Twilight thing. It's like there's always like something weird attached to it that I just don't really fuck with. Like I think Van Helsing's vampires pretty cool, and then I like what they did with these vampires. It's like just a classic kind of vampire, but in its own unique way. Um, but yeah, I don't know if it's the best, but it is good. It's good. And another thing before I end it, they title this as a horror movie, and I've seen a lot of critiques. Oh, this is not as scary as for a horror movie. This is not scary. I don't think it's a horror movie. I think it has horror elements, as in terms of there's vampires attacking you, but I don't know what you would classify it as. Maybe as like a thriller action. It doesn't have that horror feel to it, but that doesn't ruin the movie at all. It's a good movie still. But yeah, to say like, oh, it didn't scare me, so is it really a horror? I do think that that label of it being a horror is maybe misinformed. Like the trailer also makes you think that it's going to be a horror and all this crazy shit's going to happen. It's also a little misleading, I'll say. That's one of the reasons why I was maybe not going to watch the movie, because the trailer, it doesn't do the movie justice in a way. But anyway, I think I'll leave the review for Sinners over there. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.